Hello everyone, I'm your hostess with the mostest, 8-Second Gaming, and in today's video we're going to be breaking down the tier list for the Split 2 of Season 14. Because even though there were no balance changes to mess around with the meta, we have changed to a new map, and certain legends do better or worse on specific maps. So we're going to be breaking it all down today, and by the end of this video you will understand where your main is falling on the tiers. But just quickly, if you are here, it's very clear that you're looking to get better at Apex, and if that's the case, then you need to check out the GameLeap website right now. Over there, we have top-level coaches creating the best, most highly informative guides that are all site exclusive, so you will not find them anywhere else. We have legend guides, gun guides, VOD reviews, and much more, so it doesn't matter if you want to become a better mechanical player, get better aim, get better movement, no matter what, we have you covered. So click the link in the description, pick yourself up a membership, and start to improve today. But okay, with that out of the way, let's hop into the legends, and we're going to be starting at the bottom and working our way up to the top. So let's kick things off with D tier, and there are two legends finding themselves here. These legends are Mirage and Lifeline. Now, while Mirage can be fun to some players because of the bamboozles that you can pull off, his power level really falls off in ranked, especially the higher that you climb. Mirage has a ton of openings in his kit, he's actually extremely easy to counter. And the higher that you climb in the ranks, the easier people will understand how to use those counters. So your legend just really falls off and he's not actually that useful, and you're relying more on your mechanical skill rather than the ability that your legend has. And right now, Apex is very ability heavy. While having good aim and movement is very important, it really does come down to how well your legend's abilities work in the specific game, and Mirages just really don't do that well. And that's also why Lifeline is down here. Lifeline's kind of in the same boat. Even though she did get some buffs and kind of a slight rework to her kit, she's still very underpowered. The combat res is not nearly as good as it used to be, the Doc Drone is just super underwhelming because he could just pop a med kit, and her ultimate is basically just a big dinner bell saying, hey, I'm here, come kill me. I do think in order to bring Lifeline really back into the meta, she's going to need a complete overhaul of her kit and to just have it kind of completely redone. Not buffed, redone. But until that happens, she's down here. But that's our D tier covered, so let's move into our C tier, and there's still only one legend here, and that is Revenant. Now, in some situations, Revenant is super annoying to play against. I'm sure that this has happened to you guys at least once. You just finished a fight, you're healing up, you're looting up, you're getting your team reset, and then all of a sudden you see that red pulse of the Rev totem go out, and then you start to panic. But Revenant does need a few things in order to actually make him a decent legend. First off, he cannot be pushing an open line of sight fields. If that's the case, then you have so many opportunities to just send that Rev team back to the totem before they can even use it. And what does Stormpoint have? A ton of open fields where you have no cover while rotating. But on top of that, Revenant also needs to be paired with a legend in order to help him get into the fight. You need something like an Ashe or an Octane on your team in order to actually be useful enough when you're popping your totem. Without it, you're wasting a bunch of the death protection time in order to just run at somebody. Now, I'm not gonna lie, Revenant is very good in some niche situations, but needing to have kind of a perfect storm in order to be a good legend does not allow you to be any higher on the tier. But with our C tier done, let's move into the B tier. And this is where we start to kind of fill up the tiers. The legends finding themselves here are Bangalore, Gibraltar, Fuse, Pathfinder, Rampart, Watson, and Crypto. Starting off with Bangalore because she's the easiest. Bangalore's always just been a middle of the pack legend. If you watch any of the other tier lists that we've done on this channel, you will see that Bangalore's always just been in B tier. Now, Bangalore actually does what she's supposed to do very well, but that can also mess your team up just as much as it messes the enemy team up. If you misplace a smoke or your ultimate, you are screwing your team over extremely hard. Bangalore really isn't overpowered, but she's not underpowered. She's kind of actually perfectly balanced in a way. But in a game like Apex where every single little small advantage matters, being balanced isn't actually technically a good thing. So Bangalore remains in the B tier. Now the next legend is Gibraltar, and I'm gonna be honest, I never thought that I'd see the day that Gibraltar would return to being just kind of a legend that's there. He used to be one of the strongest legends of the game, and if you were ever in doubt on who to play, he was a solid pick. But with the Mad Maggie changes and changes to Newcastle and everything like that, he's just kind of fallen out of the meta. He's not as good as he used to be. His bubble and ultimate are still very strong, don't get me wrong, and they can be used in a ton of different situations. But he is not the powerhouse pick that he once was, and he does have a few weak points that teams can very easily exploit with some of the legends that are more meta right now. So with all the counters that are available to him, he really isn't that good of a legend right now, and that's why he's in the B tier. Now next up we have Fuse, and even though Fuse has been seeing a lot more pick and pro play lately, we've seen a lot of different teams testing around with him, that does not mean that he's a super broken or overpowered pick. The only part of his kit that I would actually say is overpowered is his grenades. Being able to carry more of them and just spam them out is super overpowered, but his knuckle cluster is more annoying than anything else, and his ring of fire really does not do a whole lot to specific teams. You have to remember that we are in a very mobility legend heavy meta. So most of the time, the team that you're shooting your ring of fire onto will have some way to get out of it, and worst case scenario, you can actually just run and get out of the fires before they activate. But there's only really a handful of legends that don't have any form of mobility that can't get out of the ring on their own. But if they are one of those legends, then they probably have a mobility legend on their team and they can just use them to help them get out as well. So Fuse really doesn't have anything spectacular about his kit to have him any higher on the tier list. But that's where we can move into Pathfinder. Now, Pathfinder is one of my favorite legends in the game. I love to play him. And if you watch somebody that has complete mastery of Pathfinder like Caution or Squirrel, you will see just how amazing his kit can actually be. But he has extremely long cooldowns coupled with the fact that his hitbox is massive and hasn't been updated whatsoever in a long time. Pathfinder has some amazing potential and the ability to rise back through the tiers, but until then, he's just here. And next up we have Rampart. Now Rampart is a lot better than what she used to be, I will give you guys that. But the issue that Rampart still has is she still does not fit a role on the team. She doesn't really have the kit to be a secondary fragger, and with her defensive capabilities, the other legends just do it a lot better. She's not really meant to lock down a building. She can help, but it's not her main use. So even though her walls and Sheila are very strong, because she doesn't fit a role in a team, you're leaving a lot of holes that teams can exploit, and that is a major issue when it comes to a game like Apex. But speaking of defensive legends, let's talk about Wattson. Now Wattson's actually pretty surprising for me because she is coming back into meta, but they're on very unique special teams. Caustic is still the much better choice over Wattson when it comes to defensive capabilities, but the fact that Wattson is actually coming back into meta is no surprise, because right now with the meta being very ape heavy, defensive legends are at their most usefulness. And with Horizon being very strong, the grenade spam, stuff like that, Wattson Generator does come in very clutch, but she's not anything higher than B tier. And the last legend for B tier is going to be Crypto. Now Crypto is one of the hardest legends to place on a tier list because Crypto is actually one of the strongest legends in the game when played to his maximum capability. But the reason that he's in B tier and not anything higher is because people don't actually understand how to hit that potential. Crypto needs a strong zone team that just rotates hard, gets information, and waits until late game. But not a lot of people really want to play that right now. The meta is more W key fight people, and Crypto really doesn't fall into that category. That's why right now in the current meta he is more of a B tier legend. But now with B tier done, let's move into A tier, and the legends finding themselves here are Caustic, Bloodhound, Loba, Mad Maggie, Octane, Ashe, Valkyrie, Vantage, and Wraith. Most of the legends are in A tier because we actually have a pretty balanced legend pool right now. But starting off with Caustic, he is the most overpowered defensive legend right now. When it comes to locking down a building or area, there is no better pick than the Gas Daddy. But the issue that he runs into on Stormpoint and why he's not an S tier legend like he was on Kings Canyon is because there's not as many buildings that complement his playstyle. A lot of the ones that are on Stormpoint, you can actually work a few different angles and slowly force yourself in a lot easier than you would be on Kings Canyon. So the reason that he's not an S tier is basically just because he doesn't work as well on this map. Now next up we have Bloodhound, and even though Seer is the dominant scan legend in the game right now, Bloodhound is still not weak by any means. They don't have the constant wall hacks that Seer does, but they still have the footprints, they have the increased movement speed from their ultimate, and they still do have their wall hacks. If you really want scans but you're not a Seer fan or you don't want to play Seer, Bloodhound is still a fantastic option and they will be able to complement a solid playstyle. Moving into Loba though, even though I do have her in A tier, this is a potential S tier pick. Now one of the big issues with Stormpoint is how spread out the loot is. Even if you land in a POI, say Downed Beast, there's a lot of stuff there, but it's super spread apart. It takes a lot of time to loot. And with the new storm changes, you don't have as much time to loot and you might end up leaving stuff behind, but with Loba that is not an issue. You can land, loot a little area, maybe get an alt excel or two, and be able to loot every single POI that you need on the way into zone because you just throw a black market down, grab what you need, and continue to go. Her bracelet also does seem to be fixed. I have not seen any clips or heard of any people not being able to use it, so that is always a bonus as well. Now next up we have Mad Maggie, and for King's Canyon I had her in an S tier spot, and I still do think she's a very overpowered slept on legend. But the issues that she's having on Stormpoint and why she's not an S tier legend on this map as well is because the very harsh height differences. The Riot Drill and Wrecking Ball are still very good, but when you're having to aim it up a very long hill, it can really be a bad situation to be in. She is still a very good option for highly aggressive edge teams, but she's just not the best option. But keeping on the topic of aggressiveness, Octane is our next legend, and Octane's actually a legend that I've personally been having a ton of fun on recently. The amount of plays that you can pull off with him with the combination of his stim and his jump pad, especially with the new wall running technique that's come out, there's so many things that Octane has in his kit. It's kind of like Pathfinder. When you have a full mastery of the character, you can leave enemies guessing on just exactly what you're planning to do. Now next up we have Ashe, and Ashe, like Mad Maggie, I believe is very slept on in the current meta. Right now, everybody wants to fight. Endgames are kind of a thing of the past. People are just W keying and trying to run at everyone. But with Ashe, you have the ability to counter that because you can see what side of the map is very hot, where people are dying, plan your rotations out around that, or even plan third parties around that. If you know that teams are dying a ton near you, then you can kind of go and take a little peek, not overcommit to anything, maybe get a pick or two, and then just be able to run out of it. Her ultimate is also a very good pick on Stormpoint because it's not limited by the verticality. With Wraith, if you want to portal somewhere, you have to climb up stuff, you're wasting your portal juice, but with Ashe, you just point and click, and it doesn't matter how high you need to go, you can always get it done. Next up we have Valkyrie. Now Valkyrie is another one of the legends that is very hard to place because her ultimate is one of the best ultimates in the game. Being able to not have to worry about rotations, where teams are playing, everything like that, because you can just ult, land at a safe spot and go from there, is very broken. But the reason that I have her in A tier and not S tier is because her ultimate isn't as broken. The big reason why she was such a major S tier player on the last Stormpoint splits is because how high her ultimate used to go. You used to be able to just get over every single mountain range, everything like that, but now you have to actually pick and choose which stuff you are trying to fly over and be in more of a strategic position in order to do so. And sometimes those aren't the best positions and can lead to you getting cancelled or beamed before you can even take off. So that is the reason that I have her in A tier and not S. Now next up we have the new legend Vantage, and Vantage is probably going to be the best pick for all you solo queuers out there. Her scouting and mobility are very useful. Echo is a lot of fun, has a lot of cool movement techs that you can do with it, gets you out of a ton of different situations, but the cherry on top is her ultimate. Stormpoint has a ton of very open sniper lanes that can easily be taken advantage of. And with her ultimate being potential 2-shot kills on a lot of different targets, those sniper lanes are very deadly for her. But the reason that I have her in A tier and not S tier is because she does have some issues of her own. She has a really clunky hitbox, Echo can sometimes not work the way that you want it to, and her sniper does have that very large yellow beam, so you are giving away your position whenever you're looking at somebody. So she is very strong, but just not S tier. And the last legend in our A tier is going to be Wraith. Now Wraith has always been a very staple pick in the game. She's always been a go-to legend for a lot of offensive players, and there's very good reasons for that. Wraith can do what a lot of legends can't do. She can be highly offensive in fights because if something goes wrong, she has her get out of jail free card and can phase back to her team. No other legend has that option. With Octane or anybody like that, you are still in danger while repositioning. Now her portal isn't as good on Stormpoint because of the height differences, but in the endgame situations, in something like fish farms, anything like that, she is still very, very strong. So if you're a Wraith player, even though she has been dropping in pick rate, don't be afraid, she's still a very good pick. But now we've reached the top, the pinnacle, the S tier, and the legends find themselves here are Horizon, Seer, and Newcastle. Now Horizon's been the bane of every player's existence for a while now. It seems like a lot of different people are running the Horizon Seer comp. And there's good reason for it. Horizon is very strong. Her black hole, even though it did get some nerfs, is still ridiculously good and can win fights on its own. Doesn't matter if it's a 3v3, 2v3, 1v3, the black hole will do its job perfectly well. It also doesn't have a very long cooldown time and is just a very good panic button. When in doubt, just throw the black hole out. Now throughout this list, you've also heard me talk about the verticality of Stormpoint, and Horizon is one of the legends that can just circumnavigate that very easily. Her gravity lift is insanely strong in pushing a lot of the buildings on Stormpoint. And it also is very annoying to play against because you can just strafe around in it, heal, shoot people, do whatever you want. So Horizon in S tier. And the legend that's joining her, that I'm pretty sure nobody's surprised about, is Seer. Constant wall hacks, being able to interrupt heals, everything like that, he's just ridiculously strong. But one thing that I think a lot of people are kind of forgetting about is Stormpoint has a lot of cracks and crevices that people like to hide in. They like to sit, wait for a team to come by, and then get some easy KP off them. But Seer counters that completely because of his heartbeat sensor. So if you're running into that a lot, just pick up a Seer because he counters it completely, and he's a very good pick for this map. And the last legend find themselves in S tier is Newcastle. Newcastle is the new Gibraltar. Being able to create 2 forms of cover on the blink of an eye on a map like Stormpoint is very good. Like I said, Stormpoint's an open map, there's tons of sniper lanes, everything like that, but Newcastle just stops those completely. Maybe your team got into a fight, maybe they got third party and they're rotating in a little bit later than you should be, and every good position and zone is taken. Typically, a team would just die. Gibraltar would throw his bubble, but if everyone's focusing you, as soon as it goes down, you are dead. But with Newcastle, you can slam down your ultimate and play that. That gives you and your team your own little area to play without having to throw yourself into a building and potentially waste your game. And that's not even talking about his revive. I don't think I have to talk about how strong being able to move your teammate around while reviving them is. But now that you guys have heard where I've put the legends on this tier list, let me ask you guys a question. Would you change any of the locations that I've put these legends? Let me know in the comments down below. And with all this being said, guys, I really hope you enjoyed this video and learned something new. If you did and you want to stay up to date with the latest and greatest Apex Legends tips, tricks, and news, don't forget to smash that like and subscribe button. Thank you all for watching. Once again, I'm 8 Second Gaming, and I will see you in the next one.